My name is Professor John Chandler, and I'm the co-director of the Centre for Mining Energy and Natural Resources Law. And what I'm going to talk to you about for a few minutes is three courses with which the Centre is involved, in the sense that we teach a number of the units into these courses. I do this with my colleagues, including the co-director, Professor David Hodgkinson, and other professors, Richard Bartlett, Alex Gardner, Erica Takera, amongst others. So the three courses I'm going to talk about are the Diploma of Natural Resources Law, the Masters of Mining and Energy Law, and the Masters of Commercial and Resources Law. These all have a resources flavour, and so they will be of particular interest to students who either want to develop a career in the resources industry, or already are in the resources industry but want to improve their legal knowledge or skills, or perhaps also maybe a qualified lawyer and wants to move more towards the resources industry, which of course is a dominant part of the economy of this state. Now, all of these three allow entry to students who don't have a law degree. What you need to have is a degree with a weighted average mark of greater than 50%. If you do have a law degree, then you might want to consider a Master of Laws, an LLM, which also offers access to a number of these units, but also has a broader range of units which you can do. So a diploma, the Diploma of Natural Resources Law, is what we call 24 points, which means you have to do 4 units in order to pass. And the Masters is 48, which means you have to do 8 units. And what I've described as the resources units are things like mining law, Australian oil and gas law, environmental protection law, water law, climate change and emissions trading law, and those kinds of things, all of which will give you a distinct flavour of how mines and petroleum operate and how the product is commercialised and sold. The diploma can be an entry point for those of you who are not sure that they want to make the commitment to doing a whole year, if that's what you intend to do it in. I mean, the Masters can be done, are structured to be done in a 12-month period, but you can take longer if you wish. And certainly if you're employed in Western Australia, that's quite commonly what people do. The units are run throughout the year, so it's not organised on a semester basis, and the programme extends throughout the calendar year, so there will be 8 units spread throughout it. The difference in emphasis between the Masters of Commercial Resources Law and the Masters of Mining and Energy Law is that the Masters of Commercial Resources Law looks at some of the wider implications of the commercialisation of the products of mining, energy and trade. So, for example, the compulsory unit is international sales law, as well as corporate governance for resources companies. Whereas for Masters of Mining and Energy Law, the compulsory units are mining law and Australian oil and gas law. If you are entering any of these courses as a non-lawyer, you will have to do a compulsory unit as well, Foundations of Law and Legal Institutions, which is run twice during the year. Now, let me try and answer some of the questions that I'm commonly asked. I mean, the first one is, can I do the Masters in a 12-month period? The answer to that is yes, but it's not compulsory to do that. The second question I'm commonly asked is, well, what are the means of assessment? So let's take Australian oil and gas law as an example. That has 3 assessments: an analysis of a case study, an opinion or advice as a second one, and the third one is a research paper. The research paper is the largest and counts for 50 or 60% and is 4,000 to 5,000 words. So it's a fairly extensive piece of work, sorry. And that sort of kind of leads into the next question, which is, I'm not a lawyer, will I be able to do this? And the answer to that is, yes, you will. I've had no experience of any student who's not managed to deal with the legal issues and writing things like research papers and opinions. This is not to say that the first one you do will be easy. We do try and simplify matters for you by saying, well, you don't actually have to write it as an opinion that a barrister would write. You can write it as a memo that you write to, let's say, a board of directors. But I suppose the other thing is that the units that we deal with have got a very strong commercial and statutory flavour. So none of them really has to intensively study case law in the way that you perhaps have to do with something like the law of tort. And as I say, there is a very strong commercial flavour in what we do. And that leads on to the next question, which is commonly, well, if I do this, will it improve my job prospects? I think the answer to that is, based on my experience, is yes, it will. It doesn't guarantee you a job, but with the resources sector being so important in the economy of Western Australia and internationally, experience in this area is very valuable. Now, I can also say that there aren't that many lawyers specialising in resources matter. So it's a field which is wide open for talented people to enter. The people who have done these courses, like the Master of Mining and Energy Law, have included people who are commercial analysts, engineers, environmental specialists, geologists. And the feedback I've had has generally been extremely positive, that the additional tools that legal analysis and legal writing gives you have been very useful in furthering the careers of the people who've done it. We like to think that we teach all the units in a very practical way. So we use case studies, we use outside presenters, we do group work, and the group work frequently involves people who are drawn from industry, who are either studying or they're participating, giving their time to tutor. So there are networking opportunities, and that is one of the extra values that these courses offer. The feedback I've had over the years is that students find them very engaging and very enjoyable. The people who teach into these units are of very high quality, and the standard of teaching and material is very high. So I hope that you found this useful, but the important thing is I wish you all the best for the future, and I wish you the very best of luck with your studies. Bye.